godfather of Irish drill. Shout out my boy, DEMEGODTV.
It's Wave God in this motherfucker. Hey, shout my nigga Demi Tito.
Got the song pop like I'm Iggy. All they talking about is last night like I'm Demi. Say you got.
Rupees donated $5. Damn ski pulled the Michael.
I have a note. They've been doing a little. Yeah, let's see what the. That nigga Demi was like,
What's up, Dean TV, Dean Nation, Dean Mafia? Today we're doing a video, an educational video from Useful Charts, and it's called "Are All the U.S. Presidents Related?" And yeah, in a way, to be honest, because they all part of the same, you feel me? And yeah, if you're new to the channel, like, comment, subscribe, and share the video on all social medias, and comment below what reaction you want me to do next, and check out the original video in the description box below. Roll to 100K, a million, a billion, so click that subscribe button. Let's birthday as a family, as a nation, and let's get into this educational issue, you feel me? And hope everyone's safe and well. It was everything that's going on, you feel me? And check out the merch. Go copy some, you feel me? Like, what are you waiting for? You feel me? Go copy some drill. Apologize, cause I just got a shower.
Okay, I'm going to start off with Martin Van Buren, the 8th President of the United States. Remember how Bridget Davigneau's chart included every president except one? Well, some people assume that that one missing person was Obama, but it was actually Martin Van Buren. Van Buren was the first person of Dutch descent, as opposed to British descent, to serve as president. But just because he's not a descendant of King John of England, it does not mean that he's not related to other presidents. This is because most of the later presidents have mixed ancestry, just like most Americans today. For example, the two Roosevelts had Dutch, British, and French ancestors. You can see here that Martin Van Buren had a third cousin who was the great-grandmother
they crossbreeded with other people.
Teddy Roosevelt, the 26th U.S. president. This means that Teddy Roosevelt actually has a closer blood relationship to Van Buren than he does to Franklin Roosevelt. Of course, the two Roosevelts are also related, but not as closely as you might think. You have to go back 6 generations to find the Roosevelt ancestor that Teddy and Franklin share in common. That man was Nicholas Roosevelt. Teddy descends from his son Johannes, whereas Franklin descends from his son Jacob. This makes the two Roosevelt presidents.
This has to be a lot of us be related for real, and we don't be knowing it sometimes in some places, or we be related and don't be knowing it. So yeah, you don't know who your people may be, your family may be. So yeah.
Cousins. Another thing you might not have been aware of is that Eleanor Roosevelt, the wife of Franklin Roosevelt, was also a Roosevelt. Not just by marriage, but by birth. She was actually Teddy Roosevelt's niece. So the two presidents actually share a closer relationship through marriage than they do through blood. Franklin Roosevelt was the 32nd president, and he is often remembered by his initials FDR. Well, the D stands for Delano, which was his mother's maiden name. The Delano family descends from a man named Philip Delano, who arrived in New England just 1 year after the Mayflower. And he's actually the ancestor of 3 American presidents. In addition to FDR, he's also the direct ancestor of Ulysses Grant, the 18th president, and Calvin Coolidge, the 30th president. So that makes FDR and Ulysses Grant 4th cousins once removed, and FDR and Coolidge 6th cousins twice removed. Now, before we go on, a lot of people get confused by the whole once removed, twice removed term.
Hey yo, so by this logic, this way, some YouTubers and some rappers are related to us by this logic, right?
Terminology. So let me quickly explain.
And other
if
famous
two
people,
people
right?
share
Some
the
shit like
same
that, right?
parents, they are siblings. If they both have a kid, those kids are first cousins. The next generation down would be second cousins, and then third cousins, and so on. However, when we're comparing the relationship between two people in different generations, we use the term removed to refer to how big the difference is. So, for example, if we want to describe the relationship between this person and this person, we'd say that they are first cousins once removed. If you kept going down, you'd get twice removed, 3 times removed, and so forth. Okay, so back to the presidents. You can see here that FDR had a great-great-grandmother named Elizabeth Cushman, and she was the direct descendant of Isaac Allerton, one of the 51 surviving passengers of the Mayflower. The Mayflower being the first English boat to arrive in what would become New England. That was way back in the year 1620. Several U.S. presidents are Mayflower descendants, as are many Americans in general. For example, Zachary Taylor was also a descendant of Isaac Allerton, whereas the two Bushes descend from Mayflower passenger John Howland. FDR actually descends from a second Mayflower passenger, Richard Warren, as did Ulysses Grant. And Coolidge and the two Adams descend from Mayflower passenger John Alden. Speaking of the Bushes and the Adams, these are the only 2 cases of father-son presidents. John Adams, who was president just after George Washington, was one of the 56 men who signed the Declaration of Independence. At the time he signed it, his son, John Quincy Adams, was only 8 years old. But several decades later, John Quincy would go on to serve as the country's 6th president. The Bushes, of course, both served as president much more recently. George H.W. Bush
So it
being
seemed
the
like, this is
41st
a sketch and
president,
planned out. It's
and
like,
his son George W. Bush being the
it's like they
43rd.
the family, huh?
In addition to the 2 sets of father-son presidents, there was
They the
also a
elite
case
family, huh?
of grandfather-grandson presidents. That was William Harrison, the 9th president, and Benjamin Harrison, the 23rd president. William Harrison is notable in that he died a mere 31 days after his inauguration, making his presidency the shortest of all time. Let's now look at James Madison, the 4th president, James Polk, the 11th president, and Zachary Taylor, the 12th president. Other than the presidents who share a last name, these 3 are the most closely related. This is because they all descend from this man here, James Taylor Jr. This makes Taylor and Madison second cousins, and Polk their second cousin once removed. I'd also like to point out that Taylor's daughter Sarah was the first wife of Jefferson Davis, who, after Sarah's death, went on to serve as the first and only president of the Confederate States of America, the group of breakaway states in the South that ended up losing the Civil War. The Taylor family also connects to 2 additional presidents. James Taylor Jr. had a brother named John. If we follow his line 6 generations down, we come to First Lady Claudia Taylor, better known as Lady Bird Johnson, wife of the 36th president, Lyndon B. Johnson. But the Taylors also have a connection to one of the most famous presidents of all time, Abraham Lincoln, the 16th president. If we go up 2 generations from James Taylor Jr., we get to the family patriarch, John Taylor, who was one of the earliest settlers in Virginia. If we follow his son Thomas's line down 6 generations, we come to Nancy Hanks, the mother of Abraham Lincoln. So that's Lincoln's maternal side. On his father's side, Abraham Lincoln is related to the Harrisons. You can see here that the Harrison family starts with 2 brothers, Thomas and Benjamin, both of whom were, like John Taylor, early settlers in Virginia. Lincoln descends from Thomas, whereas the 2 Harrison presidents descend from Benjamin. I'd also like to point out William Harrison's father, Benjamin Harris V. He too is an important figure in U.S. history, being that he was one of the signers of the Declaration of Independence, and hence a founding father. His mother was Anne Carter, and through her, the Harrisons are connected to 2 more famous Virginia families, the Carters and the Washingtons. Ann Carter and Jimmy Carter are in fact related, but the connection is pretty distant, so I haven't shown it on the chart. Instead, I've shown her connection to the Washingtons. Ann Carter's great-great-grandmother was Ann Washington, the sister of Lawrence Washington. Both Ann Washington's daughter Phyllis and Lawrence Washington's son John immigrated to Virginia. John was the great-grandfather of the very first president of the United States, George Washington. Okay, there's a few more connections I want to show you. Earlier, I mentioned Lyndon Johnson. Well, Lyndon Johnson is actually Obama's closest presidential relative. Both of them descend from a revolutionary soldier named Philip Ament, making them fourth cousins 3 times removed. Finally, there's Richard Nixon. He descends from Henry Howland, the brother of Mayflower passenger John Howland. But the president he's most connected to is actually by marriage, not by blood. In 1968, just after he was elected the 37th president, his daughter Julie married David Eisenhower, the grandson of the 34th president, Dwight Eisenhower. Ever hear of a place called Camp David? It's a retreat near Washington that U.S. presidents have been using since the 1930s. Well, it received its current name from President Eisenhower, who in 1953 decided to change the name to Camp David to honor both his father and his grandson, both of whom were named David. At the time, the younger David was only 5 years old. Okay, so that was a look at some of the closest genealogical connections between U.S. presidents. If you think there's something that I missed, be sure to tell me in the comments.
I think you did a good job, but shoot, next time, well, you probably didn't add Trump because nobody don't really care about Trump, or Joe Biden because nobody don't care about them yet. But yeah, we learned something here. A lot of these presidents are related, and moral to the story: if you ain't really born in that family a descent or removed or related or whatever in that category or in that pyramid, feel me, you ain't gonna be president. It's gonna be tough for you. And I hope you guys like this. You feel me? Like, comment, subscribe, and share the video on all social medias, and comment below what reaction you want to do next. See you guys.